Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Schade, Director of the Alaska Division of Agriculture. Today, we're going to have a fun discussion with Jackie Kragel. She's going to be talking about Farm Bill programs, financial and grant kind of programs, which I just stuttered through it, and we were just talking about it, but oh well. Anyway, it's their great programs they have from the Farm Bill, things that in Alaska in the past, we didn't really utilized them in the last 20 years, last 10 years with hoop houses and things like that. People are like, hey, we can use it up here. So Jackie's got a new fiscal year. And so I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and she's gonna show you the new versions in the new year. And hopefully people can find things in there, and that'll help them know to get a hold of you. And I know you've got the information of how to do that. So go ahead and introduce yourself again, Jackie. Thanks for coming back and sharing with us again.
Thanks for having me back, David. As he mentioned, I'm Jackie Kragel. I'm a program specialist at the Palmer State Office here in Alaska. What I do is I work with private landowners and our staff to administer financial assistance programs throughout the state. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 of those financial assistance programs. We have numerous opportunities for technical and financial assistance. But the 3 we're going to be talking about today are a little bit more time sensitive. We do have some application deadlines approaching. And so I just want to make sure that the public has the knowledge they need to know, and the tools they would maybe need to be able to get in our offices, sign up for some financial assistance for conservation practices on their private property. So with that, I am going to share my screen. David, would you let me know if you can see my slideshow or not?
I will let you know when it comes up. It says you have started screen sharing. There we go. You got the global down to, okay, you still have a side note there.
Okay, I'm not the most tech savvy, so we'll see if we can do that. We might just have to bear with it and have the sidebar there.
All right. Sometimes
you should be able to, if you go to the top, then it'll let you either share your whole screen or share a specific program.
In
the share screen, when you click share screen, it'll pop up a little menu there.
Yeah, you just, when you do it, you can see the main screen, but you can also see your notes. It's not a big deal if you don't mind people reading your notes. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that, David or John. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, we'll figure it out.
Okay, well, we're just gonna roll with it like this.
Sounds good.
It's showing up on my other screen, but I have like 3 monitors. Sorry, what's that?
We just lost it.
Okay.
We're back to you.
Maybe. How about there? Is that better?
That's it.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Now you got it just right. Perfect. You did it.
Here we go. My apologies. I have about 3 monitors and things kind of pop up on all the different ones. We're still working from home here. But moving forward, so with my agency, it's a department within the United States Department of Agriculture. I've been fortunate enough to be on this show before. And so some of you may know about the Natural Resource Conservation Service, who is my agency. Some of you might be new to that. So we're going to just talk on a real quick basic about the agency. We are a federal agency within the Department of Ag. We are here to help people help the land. Like I mentioned before, we help private landowners on their private properties. We help on numerous types of properties, but we're ag focused. But agriculture can look like several different ways. It could be crop, forest, pasture, range, tundra. We're working with different organizations to improve our outlet for subsistence harvesting as a form of agriculture within the state. So there's a lot of different ways we can help you on your private land. However, if you are just simply in a subdivision or something like that, it might be a little bit trickier for us to document the eligible lands as a form of agriculture. Again, there's a lot of different ways of what that looks like in the state, and you can just work with us and we'll try our best to get that eligible for you. We work exclusively with farmers and ranchers, forest managers, other ag producers, and our basic motive is to conserve our natural resources, which is soil, water, air, plants, animals, and energy. And we do work also on tribal land, so private lands and tribal lands here in the state. Kind of our flow through how you would approach a financial assistance application with us is this 9-step process. So there's different bullet points here, but essentially what we want to do is help you identify a problem, or you may come to us already identified with a problem. We look at the different objectives. We look at your resources. We have different tools to analyze and collect data on different resource concerns or problematic situations on your operation. And then we evaluate those. We help you make decisions on the best course of action to treat those or improve upon what you currently are doing. Maybe you don't necessarily have something catastrophic or something major. Maybe you're simply looking to improve the length of your growing seasons. And so we help you come up with alternatives and decisions on what we can provide for you, whether that's technical assistance or the big one, financial assistance. And then essentially we help you implement those. So we have a lot of different individuals within our agency that are agronomists, range management specialists, foresters, a lot of folks that are very specialized in their field and are tailored to you for free, of course, to help lay out kind of the strategic plan for your operation or your property to make those improvements. So we kind of like to do all of that before we start talking about applications and programs and money, just because there's so much that goes into it. When we are looking at inventorying our resources and collecting data, that you may come to us with a targeted idea for your property or your operation. But once we go through this 9-step planning process, we call it conservation planning. We may be able to identify more opportunities for different practices or alternatives. So essentially, we just really like to have folks come to our field office, our local duty stations, work with our local experts, and then we kind of start talking about applications for financial assistance, which leads to contracts. And there's, rules that always go towards that when you're receiving free money from the government. There's a little bit of red tape that we have to get through. Nothing too stringent, nothing too scary. But when we do the work beforehand, it does make everything a lot simpler when we get to applications and contracts. So as I mentioned before, one of the purposes for today's talk is just to let you know that we do have different financial assistance programs available to you when you are ready to get to that point. We do have some deadlines coming up. So perhaps you're an individual that has worked with our agency before, and you kind of know the way about it, or maybe you're new. And I'm not saying to not apply because we haven't done a conservation plan on your property, but it does help. And with that, how do you know who to talk to or where to get about your information regarding what you're eligible for? Are you an eligible landowner? Is your land eligible? How do you initiate receiving financial assistance, free money from our agency to improve conservation on your property? So this is kind of just a snapshot of where we're at in the state. Associated with it are field office phone numbers. We're far enough into the COVID pandemic that we do have folks in the field offices now. The only one that might be a little hesitant is Kodiak. Our Kodiak field office doesn't currently have anyone residing in it, but we do have folks that service the Kodiak area. But if you're trying to get a hold of someone and you're using that phone number, I would suggest you reach out to Kenai, the Kenai number, and someone there will be able to get you in the right direction if you're getting hung up. And I would suggest maybe screenshotting this if you're on your cell phones. This is a great first step into this entire process of financial assistance with the NRCS. Or if you're just looking for technical assistance, maybe just some advice from our state office experts or our field office experts. So one of our main flagship financial assistance programs is called EQIP. It's Environmental Quality Incentives Program. I'm going to just touch real quick on the red highlighted section. So this program is a little bit different than the other two we're going to talk about. Whereas instead of an application deadline, there's eligible application processes. And those are the dates associated with it. And so what I mean by that is there's a lot that goes into an application. We need to make sure that your land is eligible, that you as a landowner are eligible, your cropping history, or maybe your grazing, or there's just a few things that we need to check some boxes off on. And that takes a little bit of work from our field office staff. And so what we did this year, which is different than the years past, is we're splitting that up into 4 different dates. And so if you get with your field office and you fill out all the paperwork and they say you're good to go to submit your application by January 21st, then you would meet that batching date. If they say, well, it might take us a little bit more time, but don't worry, we have another one coming up March 18th, then your application with everyone else in that time frame would be processed on March 18th, so on and so forth for May 20th and July 15th. And the cutoff for July 15th is simply because the end of our fiscal year doesn't end in December, it ends in the end of September, beginning of October. So we do need some time to process your application, go through all the paperwork that we do on our end, and make sure that we can get you a viable product by the end of our fiscal year. If none of these dates work, we always accept applications year round. It's just a matter of when we're going to process them based on if it's a complete application package or not. So at any point, we accept your applications for these financial assistance programs. It's just a matter of whether that application is complete, and that's when we're going to process it for batching. Okay, so with that said, EQIP, that's our main flagship program. It's by far the most popular in the state, and it's a great one to just start with. There's a lot of flexibility with the length of your application and your contract. There's hundreds of different conservation practices that are eligible for your property, whether you own 0.4 acres or 400 acres. There's a lot of good stuff in this program. There's a little bit of something for everyone. Sometimes if you have, maybe David had mentioned hoop tunnels or high tunnels, greenhouses. Maybe that's just what you have targeted and that's what you're really interested in. That's great. We can process that. But also on our farm visits, we're going to take a look at other things. And maybe there's other items on our practice list that spark your interest, like pollinator habitat, tree thinning, commercial or tree planting, shelter belts, cover crops. There's just tons of stuff. And we can get really creative with you if you're ambitious and wanting to give it a go. Of course, our financial assistance helps cover the cost of any risks associated with that. We do have higher financial assistance rates for historically underserved producers. If you get with your field office, we'll be able to explain exactly what a historically underserved producer is, but it ranges anywhere between different ethnicity groups. If you're a veteran, there's several others, and there's different ways that we would just request documentation on that. It's very simple. And you, like I mentioned, there's higher financial assistance rates, sometimes up to 90%, and then advance payments are an option. Typically, we would have a contract for 3 years, but that is dependent. Sometimes you're just 1 year, depending on your practice. Sometimes it could be upwards of 5 years. Again, that's something you would work with your field office to determine once you start talking about different practices that you may be interested in. And then it also could include your entire operation, or it could just include one specific site, one specific resource concern, watering facility, greenhouse, cover crops, or a big picture of your entire operation.
So how long would you say a typical application would take to process? Just so people have some idea. Is it a couple of months? Is it 6 months? Just so people, you got your deadlines, and then what is the timeline, I guess, would be the question I have looking at what we have here.
Yeah, that's a great question. I hate to say it, but it does depend. So it depends upon where you're located in the state. It depends on the staff's accessibility to your location. If we're talking a generic Matsu Valley situation or Juneau situation or Fairbanks, something where it's more relatively easy to be accessible, and we don't have to hire a private plane or a helicopter, one of those scenarios, it would, with the assuming all the conservation planning is done on the front end, processing the application would maybe take a month or two. But I would feel confident in about, a month or two to process the application. And what happens next, we can kind of just go down that rabbit hole. So you turn in an application, all the conservation planning is done on the front end. What happens next is, depending upon the financial pool that you are in, so whether you're a historically underserved individual or you're applying for a specialty financial assistance program, it depends on which pool you kind of throw your application in. You could throw your application in potentially several pools to be more competitive, to be selected for funding, because all of these are going to compete against each other within the state. So we're only given a certain amount of money each year within the state. And within that, if we have several applications, we'll need to rank them against each other and then award them based on their ranking score and how far out the dollars go. So that's kind of the process that takes about a month or two on our end, is to go through the ranking process and select the awardees. And then once you're selected, then you just work with us on developing your contract. But yeah, generally it takes nothing more than 5 months from start to finish. And that's probably with conservation planning also.
Great.
But again, it depends on the staff's availability. Some of our field offices, we've been so fortunate to receive more people in the office, and others we might have just one servicing half the state. You saw on that last slide, Fairbanks. They cover a lot of area up there, and there's not a lot of staff. So it just really depends on where you're located also. So next I'm gonna just touch on a couple of our most popular practices within this EQIP program. I'm gonna just throw caution to the wind and let you know that I am from the Midwest. I do have an Iowa background, and so that means I have a Midwestern tongue. And some of these locations are difficult for me to pronounce, and for the grace of these locations, I'm not going to try to pronounce them. But you may be able to see them on your smartphone or your computer if you're watching. So we do a lot of work with trails and walkways. And all these photos are real projects that we've done in the last couple of years here in Alaska successfully. Forest stand improvements. This is in Cape, Alaska. Forest stand improvements, we do a lot with forests. And so whether it's a forest stand improvement, or we're planting more trees, or we're doing maybe burn cleanups, or things to mitigate wildfires, that it's not necessarily included in forestry improvement, but just know that we do a lot of work in forests in particular. And so this isn't an all-inclusive list, just a couple highlights of some popular ones. The ever popular high tunnel system, this photo is located in Palmer. Cover crops, this is looks like maybe a turnip up in Delta Junction. Irrigation water management, this is in Homer, Alaska. Man, I must have picked the good pictures that I could pronounce. Irrigation system here in the valley in Willow. Conservation crop rotation, so that could be inside of a high tunnel or external outside. Philadelphia, Alaska. Okay, so now we're going to touch on our second financial assistance program. This one is brand spanking new to the agency. This is our first fiscal year that we're going to be processing these. And essentially what it is, it's a transitional program between the one we just discussed, EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and it's a transitional program to the next one we're going to touch on, which is Conservation Stewardship Program. So this one is this little bit of a stepping stone. There's a little bit of each of those two programs thrown into this program. The benefits of it is it's a stepping stone to our next topic, Conservation Stewardship Program. There's an upwards of 5-year commitment. There's a selection of limited practices, management practices and supporting practices. So those are going to look a little different than your EQIP practices. And the reason why this is important is because when we get into Conservation Stewardship Program, which is the next one we'll discuss, that one has different rules, different management practices. It's a really beneficial program, but it's a little bit more complex than our gravy boat EQIP. So it's a way for folks to kind of try it out, see if they're going to be interested in CSP before they take the plunge into the pool. This application deadline is January 21st. And unlike EQIP, we just have one application deadline for this particular program. So this one is going to be targeting folks that likely have worked with us in the past. If you have not worked with us in the past, I would encourage you to start with EQIP. But for folks out there listening, and maybe you've heard your field office representative talk about CSP and you're unsure, or maybe you've done EQIP once or several times and you're looking for something a little bit extra, EQIP-CIC is going to be your ticket. With the added complexity, your financial assistance is going to be a little bit higher also. So a little bit more bang for your buck with this one here. But if you want more information on this, just reach out to your local field office. And then the final one we're going to discuss today is the end of that transitional program, CSP, Conservation Stewardship Program. Now you don't have to go EQIP, EQIP-CIC, CSP. You can jump from EQIP to CSP, or you can just start with CSP if you want to. However, the paperwork is a little bit bigger once you get into a contract with this one, simply because at this point in your land management, you would, for this program, you're going to have a little bit more responsibility for supplying the Nrcs with different proof or logistics or action items for your contract. So instead of simply installing a high tunnel, there's going to be more beneficial activities for you to select from for financial assistance. It's just a little bit more intuitive, innovative, a little bit above and beyond. And with that, the financial assistance is going to be much greater. But like I mentioned, the paperwork associated with it, or the job sheets, et cetera, are going to be a little bit more strenuous for the landowner. And so the responsibility is put on the landowner a little bit more than on our NRCS field office staff. But like I mentioned, you are compensated with your financial assistance at a higher rate than EQIP or EQIP-CIC. The biggest differences for this program versus EQIP is that you're going to be enrolling your entire operation that you have control over into this program. So EQIP, if you just wanted to tinker with a couple acres or maybe a half an acre, but you own 20, this one is going to require you to put that full 20 into Conservation Stewardship Program. So this is really targeting those landowners that have done an already above and beyond job on their operation. They might be considered innovative by their neighbors or the point of contact that people in the neighborhood kind of go to for some expertise. This would be a really great program for that individual. And if you're historically underserved, that is still an option for financial assistance in this program as well. It's the same as far as whether you have crop ground, forest, hay, grazing, range, tundra, all of the above is qualified in this. There's just a little bit more extra rules associated with it when you get to the contracting. Again, this one does have a hard deadline, so it's January 21st, same as the first batching of EQIP and the EQIP-CIC. I've had a lot of folks kind of walk into this program with maybe some nerves just because paperwork and all that is a little bit scary coming from the government. But I can assure you they've had nothing but success and great opportunities. And this is a good one to talk to your field office about to see if it's something that you qualify for. And then if you do qualify for it, what the benefits to you and your operation are going to be. We've had a little bit of interest in it the last couple of years. Alaska has historically not utilized this program much at all. And so the competitive pool is pretty low right now. So if you're interested, you're going to get in most likely as long as you have eligible lands associated with it.
So what are some of the things in the stewardship program that you'd be talking about, since you already have somebody in that plan? You got some idea of something? I saw the peony field. It'd be for improved watering or adding some pollinator habitat, or that's kind of, I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
Yeah, totally. Both of those actually. So maybe you already have an irrigation system, but you're looking to improve the water efficiency within your irrigation system. And so this program would help you make that transition to a more improved and stable or efficient type of practice. And maybe you have cover crops, maybe you have a single species cover crops, but you're maybe I don't want to do like a 3 species cover crop. And so this would help you get the financial assistance that you need to make that transition. It kind of helps with a lot of the financial burden. Fencing, maybe you have a fence, but you're looking to improve it for wildlife habitat benefits. Of course, pollinator habitat is part of it also. There's just any type of practice that we have in EQIP. CSP has, we call them enhancements. CSP would have an enhancement for that practice. So you have a base practice, but CSP is going to take that base practice and give it a gold star, essentially.
Great.
Yeah. And this is just, again, another reminder in case you missed it on the first slide. I can't emphasize it enough that contacting your local Nrcs field office is just definitely the best step, the best first step to take, whether it's to initiate the conservation planning process, that 9-step tiered out process that we talked about before, or if you feel like you're ready to submit an application, this would be who you want to contact to get that paperwork. They'll sit down and help you answer the questions. It's really simple. It takes probably 2 minutes to fill out. And then a lot of the work comes after that on our end. Do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions. So I know that we've got a new produce water rule coming up that's being rolled out. And I think that these are the kind of programs that as our farmers are growing up and expanding, these might be some of those things they can come in and talk to you about. Is like, okay, because the new rule is going to be more based on risk analysis and studies, and you have some expertise out in these field offices. So we encourage folks to come in and talk to you as they're trying to sort out the different things they're looking at doing. Any other
Absolutely.
ideas along those lines of things that you see coming?
Not that I see coming, but we do have opportunities within these financial assistance programs we just covered that have some analyses provided. So not just implementing structures and management practices, but we do have opportunities for whether it's technical assistance or, again, financial assistance for soil testing or nutrient management, different ways to look at soil health in your property, on your land, whether you're growing berries with subsistence harvesting, or maybe your vegetable gardens or your hay ground. There's a lot of different ways we can analyze what you have going on. All of this that I've talked about is no cost to you if a representative comes out and does a field visit and works with you on any type of natural resource concern you might have.
Good. And relatively in ag, you've got a lot of offices around the state. So, but I'm sure that people can get a hold of you on the internet, and you got your phones.
Yep.
Any suggestions there?
Yeah. If you're looking for maybe some literature, just Google Nrcs Alaska, and it's going to pop up one of the first two. Click on that link, and it's going to take you to our website, and it's going to have all of the information we talked about and more. Like I mentioned, we do have other financial assistance programs. However, these are the ones coming up with the deadlines. They're kind of our flagship or gravy boat financial assistance programs. We offer technical assistance that does not have any contracting or obligations associated with them at all. So maybe you're more interested in just receiving some technical advice or a second eye looking at something on your property. But all of that information can be found on our website. And I apologize, I don't have that link on this slide, but just Google NRCS of Alaska and it's going to take you right there.
Yep, I'm sure we'll look it up, and when we put these on our page, so we'll add that in at the bottom of the page so people can find a link to do that. So we can do that. And so
Great.
Really appreciate you coming on, Jackie. Always give my guests the last word. Thanks again for coming on and presenting these really important programs that people can use.
No, I appreciate the outlet, and I wouldn't hesitate anyone if you have any question again on anything I've talked about, or even if you think there's no way this is going to apply to me, or there's no way this specific project is going to be eligible. I would wage you to make the phone call, and I bet we can get you going somewhere on it.
Great. Well, I know you have great staff. I know that they have good technical advice. And sometimes people telling you you're asking the wrong question, so you're not going down the wrong rabbit hole for a while. I really encourage people to do that, to talk to our staff, to talk at USDA staff, because sometimes making sure you have the right question as you start working on something is, very helpful, instead of getting a long ways down the line and we're like, yeah, that's the wrong question and for this piece of property or this project. And so I love it when people call and ask, well, what about this? And sometimes they literally don't know some of the state or federal agencies, and well, you're actually in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I know that you guys are really good at going, well, here are your different options and different programs. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking to our community, because we've got a lot of folks that are not just pure ag, but the public needs to know what you guys do and how we all work together. And so we've been fostering a stronger working relationship between the agencies, as you know. And so I really appreciate when we reach out and say, hey, can we update? Folks, January 21st, it was in there in multiple places. That's really coming up fast. So reach out quickly.
It is.
But it's a year-round program and things keep going. So, I encourage people to, even if they can't make one deadline, to start talking to you guys so that they can get in the queue. I know it's important in federal programs that you get signed up to some of these, and there are some technical things. Get a farmer's number with FSA, things like that, to make sure you have these proper steps and you get yourself in line. So it's not a surprise and you're almost done with something and you're like, ooh, here's something we got to go do over here. So, you know, we do have a USDA approved industrial hemp program now. And so part of that is going to FSA. So we're going to continue to work between the state and the federal agencies. So again, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll have you guys back soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, David.
All right, take care. Bye, folks.